In this chapter, we're going to create a new page in our About section. So if we look at our About Us and our team pages, I'm quite happy with them and where they are at the moment. We're going to add our company history as a page. And we want to carry on the same theme, the same style of a lot of these pages, but we're also going to use, again, another page section that's already been pre-designed. I've already been on ChatGPT and I've created a fictional timeline for this company starting from its fictional founding in 1998. We're going to bring this over and paste this content into a structure that's already been put in place on Squarespace. If I go to Pages, click on the cog and duplicate the page, and then we could get rid of this section and add a new section in its place. We're not going to do that though. What we're going to do is add a new blank page. And this time we're going to build it up from the ground. I think I'm going to change the name of that. Don't panic if you've put a name in that you want to change afterwards. And I'm going to call this Our History. Makes it more personal. So I'm selecting that copy and I'm going to paste that in twice into our navigation title and our URL slug. Didn't really need to do it there because history would have been absolutely fine for that. Now we have our menu system. We have our new blank page in the middle of that submenu, and it makes the menu look more detailed. What we can do now is go to Edit, and we're going to add a new section. You may have guessed it, but we're going to add in a masthead first, and then we're going to change that then to. So I'm just going to put a subtitle in there. One thing we notice is actually removed the styling that we had on there. So we're just going to put it back to paragraph 1, which has the right size, and then our color palette already has this color in there. So this is why it's worth during the design process to go to this section here and make sure we've got a color palette that matches our brand, because it just makes these decisions a whole lot easier. I'm assuming that this has already been done if the website's already been designed. If we click Add Section now, we're going to add a new section for our timeline. And let's have a look at the options we've got here. Maybe services will have that type of breakdown. Yep, we can see here. We could add in each date as one panel there. I'll just see if there's anything else. Nope, can't see anything else that would do the same effect, so we'll go with that. So we can put the dates in and then the paragraphs that go with them. This is where I'm probably going to copy and paste them all in one go. What I will do is I'm going to add a new section below. It's blank. Add a text block. Fill it to full width. And paste those in. I'm now going to cut the text areas that I want from that section and now paste them in above. Finally, I'm going to create a bit of space for myself. And change that to, we'll try a heading 3. So we can see now that we've got both the date and the content pasted in. And now we're going to do that the same with each of the others. So what I'm probably going to do now is just speed up the time frame, because you don't need to watch me do every single one of these in real time. But I'm just going to the page here, copying and pasting across. Okay, so most of this is now in place, and I'm just going to make sure adjusting each of the rows. So we just click, hold and drag, and we can move the blocks accordingly. I'm extending that block again, so if it's on mobile or as we reduce the screen size, we want to make sure that they all snap together at the same time. And so we have that type of a smooth effect when we transition across different screen sizes. Something else I might do here is just reduce the width of these blocks. I can either do it by snapping them in one block at a time, or I can increase the gaps between each grid block. So if I go to Edit Section, we can see the gap here now, and we can adjust this section by section. So I'm going to double up or it might even triple the width of those spacer blocks in between them. That gives our content more breathing space. Just going to save it at this stage so that the text from this block doesn't flow into this one, so it therefore appears too cramped. One of our principles of design is called Spaceman, and it's about letting our designs breathe by giving good spacing in between each of the sections. It's about the space around the text, as opposed to having the size of the text being that much larger each time. What we're going to do here in this section as well is we notice that there's 2 more for 2020 and 22 that we need to add in. The reason I didn't do that on the time lapse is because I can show you what we can do now. I can select these 2 blocks here and either press Command D on a Mac or just press copy or duplicate option, and now we can just duplicate those 2 remaining items in the timeline. We can then change the date. Sometimes this will happen. Don't panic if it does. And the same with 2022. We then need to change the paragraph content within that. So if we see it as that heading 3 size, all we need to do now is just drop it back to paragraph 2. There's one thing while we're at this point, and this happens regularly if you're not used to Squarespace and you've been thrown in at the deep end, is I press backspace. It will adjust paragraph to the same heading style as above. If I now press enter, it won't change it back automatically. If I hold shift and press enter twice to create a paragraph using line breaks as opposed to paragraph breaks, what will happen is when I change it to paragraph 2, it changes it all to paragraph 2. What we need to do is just press enter to create those 2 paragraph split, which we can then change the first paragraph to the heading that we want. Finally, we're going to take that last section, Control C, Command C to copy, double click in the text block that we want to paste to, clear out the formatting that we don't want, and then paste it in. Okay, so we now have our timeline. What we might want to do is add a new section introducing the timeline. And this is something that will happen quite regularly when you're trying to update a web page that you didn't build. And what we'll find is there may be additional information you need to add. So it's not just a case of going in and editing these dates once they're put in place. You may want to add a section above. Before we do that, we can see that there's a straight line by the footer. Whilst if we go to other pages, we have that wave carrying through. So we go to edit section, then scroll down. And in this particular case, we've got this divider option. So if your website has a divider design, look at the design on other sections. This is a very new feature. We've gone with the default wave option here with no stroke effect. So that means that this carries them through on all pages. I believe that it will remember your first option with the divider and it will match that accordingly. But what it does very cleverly is it will see the background color of the content below of that section and the section that you're in, and then it will automatically adjust the colors accordingly. We get that nice wave effect finishing the page, which suits this template, all carried over really nicely in this design. Final step for this chapter, we're going to add a new section. We could choose an intro section and see if there's a simple text introduction. This one might suffice, or this one. Or we could choose this option here and then move them around so that the image is on the right hand side. Or here's an example of it here. So in this case, we don't want it to have the wave effect. We're going to marry it up to the color of the section below. So if we add the section color, go to this color tab here, and now we can choose lightest. And that matches up the color to our header. So we have that wave effect back in, and it's the same color then as the white below. We can also adjust the height of this section to small, because what we want to do is make this more compact so we can actually get to the timeline. I don't need a call to action button, so we're just going to delete that button there. And we're going to make this image more of a landscaping orientation. And the one thing we had on the home page was a distinct style for images in this type of format. You can see here we've got that cutout on the right side of the image. So if we go back to our history page, We need to change the text here, choose the right type of photo. But if I double click on this image, we can replace, and we're going to search for a stock photo. We could alternatively upload our own. Just going to have a look for an office here. Might go for this one. Okay, we go to design, and this is where we can put a corner radius. So if I click on that, we can see that it's 0 for all of them at the moment. I think it's this one. We'll go with 50, but I could double check on the other page to see what the settings are on that page so we can match it up accordingly. So now this has the same effect with that bottom corner just rounded off, which matches the font, the logo that we've got for this fictional company. And here we can put in an introductory sentence for that page. So I'm going to go to ChatGPT. This isn't part of the course, but by all means, give this a try. That's pretty generic, but for a template, we're not after writing something very specific because it's going to be overwritten anyway. But what it does is it gives a more realistic feel to the website templates that we build at our studio. Quite a long sentence, so heading 2 is definitely going to be too much. Heading 3 could work quite nicely, or we could even drop it to a heading 4. That's probably too small. So again, we're using preset font sizes. We just find the right fit. If there's a natural space or divide for this content, we could go with a heading and then section below. So I could even say split to 2 sentences. Thank you, ChatGPT. Now we go back to the website. And now we've got 2 sentences. So if you remember from earlier in this chapter, to get different headings and paragraph styles, we need to press enter, not shift and enter, to split those 2 areas. Now we can go with heading 3 for the initial bit, and then maybe paragraph 1, which is the largest paragraph size for the introduction below. That then flows nicely into the rest of the content, provides a nice introduction. We could even just reduce this a little bit because the photo still works in that ratio, and then bring up this option here allows us to remove any unused grid sections. So we don't want extra spacing below as we have above. We're looking at that uniform spacing and having this section here nice and compact so we don't have too much white space dividing the 2, but enough to get that flow through the site. So this page is now finished. We may decide to put a call to action just to wrap it up. So I'm going to add a button. If I click and drag it down, it creates more spaces automatically for me, so I don't need to go over to the option that appears on the right there, which is nice. I don't need to do it via this. I can just do it by stretching the content using the button. So we got with Contact Us. Now we can link to a page, and if our contact page is in place, which it is, we can then link that button to that page. We can also link to web addresses. We can upload files and link to them. We can link to someone's email address or even a phone number, so you could press on your mobile device and phone via a link. We don't want to open in a new window because we want to keep that content on the same page. But now, if I press save, we now have all of this in place. The next chapter will be looking at how this transfers over to a mobile view and the fixes that we can make.